Hey guys, Frightener22 here, and this is Saturday Night Movie Drive-In. With Christmas only 2 short weeks away, I figured it was the perfect time to bust out an essential Christmas classic for the holiday viewing season. So we're going to be taking a look at a film from one of my favorite directors of all time, Joe Dante, and the film that he will most likely be best remembered for. So we're going to take a peek at 1984's classic Gremlins. Now, this film stars the likes of Zach Galligan, Corey Feldman, Joe Dante's good luck charm Dick Miller, Phoebe Cates, as well as the voice talents from Howie Mandel. And now, this film, the plot of this film deals with a boy played by Zach Galligan who's given a Christmas gift from his father, found in some desolate Chinatown shop, and it's a mogwai. It's a little pet, and a lot of responsibility comes along with caring for this specific pet, and Billy accidentally ends up breaking all 3 of the rules that are presented with him in protecting this pet, and before you know it, chaos is completely, running rampant in his, tight-knit little suburban Christmas town, and all hell ends up breaking loose all over the town. This film is just, it's been regarded as a world-renowned, classic in the genre, and it's really easy to see why. I mean, Joe Dante, the director, is one of my favorite directors of all time. He's directed so many classics in the genre, such as Piranha, The Howling. He's contributed a segment to the Twilight Zone movie. He's just endless, an endless beloved filmmaker. And on this film specifically, there was just so many unique talents that kind of came together to make this classic film. Not only did you have Joe Dante directing it, but the script was actually penned by Chris Columbus, who would go on to a really impressive directing career of his own, only a few short years later, getting his directorial debut with 1987's Adventures in Babysitting, and then of course he went on to direct the massive successes of the first 2 Home Alone films, as well as the first 2 Harry Potter films. As if that's not enough, you have the amazing talent of producer Steven Spielberg putting his credit on the film, as well as, an iconic score by the classic Jerry Goldsmith. So all these components coming together, and, over a genre pick like this, magic was just, bound to happen, and that's exactly what happens in Gremlins. It's a wonderful film that's, really pulled off by a really simple story, penned by Chris Columbus. And what Chris Columbus was really trying to do is that he was just really trying to make, a dark horror satire of It's a Wonderful Life. And that's really what, the vibe that you get when you see this film. I've always compared Gremlins to It's a Wonderful Life meets Leave It to Beaver meets like a creature feature flick. That's like the perfect way that I can describe it. But, the thing that really makes this, an obvious go-to Christmas movie for people that just, kind of feel like A Christmas Story or Home Alone might seem a little redundant around this time of the year. There's just a lot of genre fans that need, a little, some more bloodshed, a little bit more action, a little bit more violence, but then, of course, packing on just as many laughs along with the violence. So Gremlins is a lot of people's go-to film to get them, in the holiday season, because it takes place over the course of a few days leading up to Christmas. So it's like the perfect setting. And when you're watching this film, and I think the real reason that people are going to go back when, I hate to say it, but the day that Joe Dante is no longer with us, a lot of people are going to go back and view Gremlins as his crowning achievement. I mean, people, have, ever since this film debuted in 1984, people have always just kind of known, or at least your casual filmgoer has always known Joe Dante for his contributions on Gremlins and its sequel, Gremlins 2, The New Batch. But, Gremlins is just, it's such a special film because when you're watching it, you can see Joe Dante's trademark written all over it. I mean, this is a guy that you can tell that he just has such a love and passion for filmmaking, and it's just, it really seeps into his work. You can see that a lot of his interests and what he loves about films are scattered all over Gremlins specifically. There's little nods to, a lot of the 50s science fiction films that he loved growing up as a kid. you see while Billy's watching TV at certain times that the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers starring Kevin McCarthy is seen in it. Billy is a big cartoon and comic strip artist in his spare time, which Joe Dante is a big lover of. And then there's, you know, spots of, like, animation of, like, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs being seen, and Joe Dante is a big cartoon geek as well. So that's the one thing that I really, you know, the quality of the film and the hysterics in this film are great, but it's little things like that that really make this film a really special viewing experience for me each and every time I revisit it. So that's a lot of, a big reason why I love it and why I love Joe Dante's style in general. Moving on, some really, really memorable scenes in this film for me are Billy's mom is actually a housewife in it, and when you break the 3 cardinal rules for caring for a Mogwai, they become, obviously, these vicious gremlin creatures. So once the rules are broken, and the Mogwais that were spawned from Gizmo, the original Mogwai, turn into these vicious gremlins. Being the housewife that she is, she comes face to face with like 4 or 5 of them in the kitchen, which is the perfect setting for this housewife character. So she uses a lot of household appliances to deal with them, such as like like a juice grater to churn one of them up. She shoves one of them in the microwave and turns it on full blast, and then she uses, like, kitchen knives to deal with it. So I just always loved that scene. I just loved, putting, a housewife, like a damsel in distress, in harm's way, thinking that she would be, like, an easy, like, dispensable, victim, but it's a real, funny, goofy twist to see her use all these household appliances and more or less what she knows best, being a housewife. So I just always really loved that scene. It cracks me up. Another great scene is when even a big rule is getting the gremlins wet. That if you get the gremlins wet, then obviously they just multiply and they just become meaner and meaner. So, as the film really picks up, there's like hundreds upon thousands of them taking over this suburban town that the characters reside in, and they end up holing up at one specific scene in a bar, and that scene is just hysterical. I mean, there's just so many funny gags in that, where Phoebe Cates is tending to, a bunch of the gremlins at the bar, and one of them is, like, swinging on the chandelier. The leader of the pack, known as Spike in the film, is playing poker and drinking tons of alcohol, in the bar. It's just really funny to see these Muppet-like creatures, doing these types of things. Another scene that I really love is a little later on after the bar scene is where all of the gremlins hole up in the local movie theater, because another cardinal rule in caring for a Mogwai is that they hate bright light. So they hole up in the local town theater that's dolled up to look like a real classic 50s style movie theater, which goes to show Joe Dante's love and passion for, like, the films and the way that he viewed films when he grew up, which is another nod that I love. So they hole up and they're getting a kick out of watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's hysterical to see all these creatures being so amused by an animated Disney classic. It's really ironic, because they're, being so amused by this childlike film, but they're causing all this chaos and anarchy in this, small little suburban town. So that's really, really great. I mean, the gags never stop coming, and from what I understand, this was a really, really difficult film and really stressful to make, because upon working with the Gremlins designs and stuff, they didn't really know how they were going to work, so it was really like a trial and error and learning as they went as to see what the Gremlins could and couldn't do. So a lot of hard work and time went into seeing just, the boundaries of what these creatures could ultimately do, but, the hard work really paid off, because the creature designs look phenomenal in this film, and the gags and goofs that they were able to pull off on it are just classic in themselves, so it's really, really great. The finale of this film is really, really awesome, where they track down the lone survivor of the pack, the leader of the Gremlins, Spike. So Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, and of course their buddy Gizmo need to put an end to Spike. So they're running around a department store trying to track Spike down, and as Billy is coming to what seems like his near death, Gizmo comes along in what else but Barbie's convertible that he took from the toy section of the department store. So he swoops in and saves the day before Billy is killed by Spike, and I just love that. I just love that image of, you know, Gizmo coming to the rescue in Barbie's convertible. It's great, and that's a wonderful thing about this film, is that it's a film that's very heavy on eye candy. I mean, there's just so much to feast your eyes upon, and it's really, really great, and it's just so charming, but it's a film that has the eye candy, but really, you know, packs a punch and delivers on the story and the quality of the film overall. It's just a really, really great and a wonderful film to be seen around the holidays. Some interesting facts that I did while I was researching Gremlins that I didn't really know is that this film, in addition to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, were two of the big reasons as to why the rating PG-13 was instilled, because a lot of people at the ratings board felt that scenes in both those films were depicted to be a little bit too violent for PG, so it's a little interesting to note that it was a little film known as Gremlins, and the sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, that really made PG-13 the new rating at the time. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. And another really interesting thing that I never knew is that Steven Spielberg was actually considering Tim Burton to direct this film, but ultimately decided against it because Tim Burton had never directed a feature film up at that point in his career, and as many people may or may not know, it was only 1 year later that Burton got his shot at directing a feature film, that being Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So that was just a really interesting thing that I never realized. So, of course, this is a classic from 1984, and Joe Dante did eventually follow this film up with a sequel, Gremlins 2: The New Batch, although it came many years later. It didn't actually hit theaters until 1990, and although it didn't meet the same expectations and gross the same amount of money as the original Gremlins did, it still did its fair share at the box office, but Joe Dante really credits that to, you know, the long gap of years that was in between the first and the second one, which I completely agree with him. I mean, the Gremlins just weren't really on the people's mind at that time. I mean, so many years had passed, and the 90s were really, you know, just kind of starting, so it had been many years passing. But it's really interesting to note that actually, while many people regard Gremlins as a bona fide classic, director Joe Dante actually prefers the second one over the original, which is really interesting. But either way, Gremlins and Gremlins 2 are both really, really classic, phenomenal films, and both should actually be seen as a double feature because they're that much fucking fun. But overall, you know, with Christmas here, I can't think of a better Christmas film to recommend genre fans that just need, you know, some hysterics, some Christmas cheer, and then a little anarchy just to keep things really interesting and really fun this Christmas season while, you know, you're trying to find a good treat to watch. So, you know, with that, you know, I don't understand why you guys are still listening to me babble on about how great Gremlins is. If you've never seen it, you know, quit wasting your time watching my review and just get out and check out this 1984 classic from one of my favorite directors of all time. You certainly will not be disappointed. Well, guys, that's all I got for you this week, and be sure to tune in next week, where Saturday will be Christmas, so I will be presenting a special Christmas-related Saturday night movie drive-in review, so be sure to tune in for that. As always, guys, thanks again for tuning in. This has been Frightener22. I'll catch you next time.